December 2nd, stock playbook. One video tonight. Market Smith's having some issues with that chart, so I'm having a hard time filtering through them. So my apologies in advance. Hopefully we got it fixed now. But you couldn't get a flatter market than today. The Dow and the S&P were both down less than a point, and the Nasdaq was up less than a point. So basically we closed exactly where we were yesterday. Unemployment rate down from the 9 to 8.6. A lot of people questioning the data. I'm not getting into conspiracy theories or manipulation of data. I'll leave that to you guys, but it certainly didn't feel like the data, the unemployment rate's coming down because the people that have given up on trying to find employment has increased. They just thrown their hands up in the air, and that's why the unemployed, they're no longer considered unemployed when they stop looking, which is basically what that data means, as crazy as that sounds. In no particular order, I'm just going to fire through the different videos. First and foremost, from our focus list, a couple of stocks that are working. American Vanguard, coming up that right side of its base. Really like the stock. Want to see it get above this 13.5 level and increase volume, but looks good. Francesca Holdings, a name that's been a disaster, just keeps selling off. We said we're waiting for it to show us something. Consider today day one of showing us something. You don't blindly jump in there, although we do have a catalyst with them coming out with earnings next Tuesday. But Francesca Holdings today, nice move, above average volume. Let's see how this thing trades into earnings. If you want to play it for earnings, that's fine. Adjust the size of your trade because there's no options on it. Advance America, AEA, looks like it's poised to break out. Nice volume, second out of 3 days. Looks like it's ready to start moving higher. And Rackspace Hosting, a stock that we have multiple percentage returns, 3, 4, 500% returns on this thing. Looks like it's setting up a nice base, kind of the calm before storm. If this market continues higher, Rackspace is a name I think you could take a look at. But again, just be careful. All eyes are going to be focused on next week. It is still about Europe. Nothing we've done this week has addressed the problems there. We have to see what the ECB and the IMF have in store next Thursday. Friday is going to be very tough. So I think the market as a whole is going to be, skittish being long, and that's why the volume was light the last couple of days. SPXU pulled back today, 13 and change, great entry level. I added some of the SPXU that I sold on this lift. I still think this lift might last for another day or two, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have to see. But SPXU, I think, is very interesting down here. Back to the portfolio, the focus list stocks. RPXC and Tiavana, two names I actually owned in the hedge fund. I sold both of them today. I love them both longer term, but we've had a nice run in this market. The fact that neither one of them participate in that rally is all of the signs I need. Tiavana closed at the lower end of the range yesterday, heavy volume, went even lower today. Took my loss, and I still like them both going forward, but you got to take your losses. Keep your losses small, ride your gains. So that's where we're at with Tiavana. FAS. A lot of people ask me about these financials. I mean, yeah, if you jumped in at 52 and now you're at 62, if you want to take some profits, that's fine. I think it can last for another couple of days. I would not want to be long the financials going into that European meeting. Now, some say, well, if they go ahead and come to some sort of agreement, the financials will rip higher. Absolutely true. But if they don't, and then the financials could roll over and just as quickly be right back where they were a week ago. So I bought these for a trade. I said I was looking to trade them. I said 30, 40%. I think I could still get close to getting that, before we have to get out of them. But FAS, JP Morgan is one of my favorite financials. It recaptured its 50-day moving average, heavy volume today. Bank of America, I got the 2014 leaps. I got 2 years before these things expire. I just tucked them away and not even going to look at them. If they go to 0, great. If this stock goes to 10, 12, 15, I'm going to be a hero. Morgan Stanley moved up. But all of these stocks are just trades. One that might not be a trade. IBD had an article on them, and they added to one of their, what do they call it? IBD 50. Texas Capital Bank shares. It's no secret Texas has one of the best economies of any of the 50 states. Stock has made a nice base here. Unlike a lot of the banks, good solid revenue growth, good earnings growth, great projections going forward. Holding company, Texas Capital Bank, forming a base, broke out today. If you want to get long a bank stock, TCBI could be the one you want to take a look at. I'm not a fan of the financials, but TCBI, if the institutions have to park in a financial, this is as good as any. So TCBI, a new name that I think we'll be talking about going forward. Looking at other individual names, VRSK, Verisk Analytics moved up, hit another new high today. Allot Communication, ALLT, Israeli provider of networking equipment to manage network traffic and internet access. I love the volume to the upside. This is still, tracing out a base. Not too late. Obviously, I'd like to see it pull back more towards the 16 level. Would be a great entry level, but Allot Communications is one that I think you could take a look at. Weight Watchers reset its base count on this gap down, had a nice move back up, and now testing those lows again. You have your line in the sand at 51. It gapped up today. Nice volume today. You got good volume here. You had decent volume at the support, and now you're seeing it again, heavy volume to the upside. I'm not saying buy it at 61, but if this market rolls over and it pulls back, you might take a look at Weight Watchers. Perigo continues to be a name that we like. We're about 800 million away from this being one of those large caps. It'll be on one of our large cap focus lists. I really like Perigo. Select Comfort, SCSS, bouncing again, continuing its bounce off of its 50-day moving average. QIHU, the Chinese stock, out of all those Chinese stocks, Youku, Renren, QIHU is the one we like the most because it's actually profitable. IPO'd at 15, found support most recently, right above that level. QIHU, if you got to get long China and you're looking for a name, this computer software security play is the one I would look at. QIHU recaptured the 50-day moving average today. Google, GOOG, took out its recent high. Now we got our eyes set on the 52-week high of 627. Look at the volume. Above average increasing volume. That's just what you want to see. The pullback to the 50 was on light volume, breaking out on heavy volume. Notice how that differs from Apple. AAPL, which we like as a short. It sells off on heavy volume. It sells off here on heavy volume, and there's no buying. There is no buying in Apple to the upside. It's bouncing, but it's a late stage pattern. I looked at Apple. I've been short it. I thought about shorting some more today. The only reason why I didn't, because this would be the perfect level to short Apple, but the only reason why I didn't short it because I was too busy shorting other stocks. Okay, and you know what they are. We've talked about them. Lululemon, earnings reversed, pulled back. We said if it comes into that 200-day. Today, heavy volume, the heaviest volume we've seen with the exception of yesterday and sometime, and failed to get above the 200-day. You got to give it a little room, maybe the 50-day moving average a little bit more, but I shorted, Lululemon. We sold off. I took some profits. The stock that I sold, I reshorted today. If it comes up to the 52 level, I will add a little bit more. Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, GMCR. Also, added a little bit more to my short. We're at the upper end of the range, actually above that range. I'm looking to increase my short exposure after the week that we just had. I will be tight with my stops. I'll give them some room. But again, I want to have some exposure to this market to the downside because I feel like I'm getting a little heavy on the long side with stocks like SolarWinds, Tango, Fusion IO. You know all the names. Ulta Salon. I said that if we had a lift, I thought it would be a great opportunity to short it. And as I said yesterday, again, so the product's changing a little bit. Now that we actually have the hedge fund up and running and it's audited and we have the financials, I'm telling you what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Not as I'm doing it because during the day I'm working, but I'm sharing with you what I'm doing through the day. Ulta Salon is a name I've been long for years. I had taken profits along the way up. I said I should take a little bit more. Today I did one better. I sold every share of Ulta Salon I have and actually went short. It is the first time I've taken shots at Ulta in the past, with options to the downside, which acted as a hedge against my long. But for the first time in years, I do not own a share of Ulta. I am actually short the stock, and now I am rooting for it to roll over as much as I love the company longer term. I'm not saying Ulta is going to be a Netflix. Ulta is not going to go from 74 to 24. But I think 74 down to 60 will make me a nice return, and then I'll take a shot at the 200-day moving average or a pull a little below and with a tight stop again. But that's my play on Ulta Salon. We talked about Francesca with the earnings next week. I really think if you want to take a shot, you could buy some stock there. Some other earnings, there's only, 3 other ones next week. Mitchum Industries, MIND, bounced today. We like it into earnings next week. Vera Bradley also, all 3 of those, Mitchum, Francesca, and Vera, all coming on Tuesday. Check the calendar. But Vera Bradley I like into the earnings. And Titan Machinery, which is supposed to come Thursday, now looks like it's coming Friday morning. Moving up since we talked about it into earnings. Sometimes you buy them beforehand. They have a nice run into. But Titan Machinery is one that I think is worthy of a play. The week after that, we added another couple of earnings plays. Best Buy is one that I like to the short side. Shorted some of that the other day in the hedge fund, and I'll stay short into their earnings. I like Best Buy going lower. I still think natural gas is, you got to have some exposure there. TRGP is one we've talked about in the new high video. Targa Resources. Gathers, processes, and sells natural gas, storage, transportation, moving up. Look at, natural gas. These natural gas stocks are moving on nice volume. We've flagged this for you. You always have to be looking where the institutional money's going. You can find footprints in the sand. Targa Resources, which we've spoke about the last week or so in our new high video. Look at that volume today. Almost 3 times its average daily volume as it moved up, hit another new high. WES, we mentioned just yesterday, moving up on heavy volume. PAA, you get the point. I'm not going to go through every single one. This is a transportation pipeline play, but, Plains All-American Pipe moving out to a new volume on above average volume. Oil tanker, OILT, is one we've talked about once or twice. Oil tanking partners. They're engaged in terminaling, storage, and transportation of crude oil and petroleum products. IPO'd at 22, built itself a nice base, broke out recently. That's when we started talking about originally at $24, $25 a share. Pulled back to the 50, now we're at 28. But Oil Tanking Partners is one you could take a look at. INT, World Fuel Services, is a name we've loved for years, haven't mentioned it forever, but flashed the other day, started popping on our radar. Right here on the pullback, you already have a nice profit, but World Fuel Services is one that we like to the upside. They're not the only stocks hitting new highs. Again, had almost 100 today. CBM, medical products company, pharmaceutical ingredients and things of that nature, moving up. We talked about it early in the week. Medivation, MDVN, is another one of these, biotechs that's not earning any money, that's just been, all of them have been running today. PetSmart, PETM, PetSmart stores, 47 states in Canada, moving up, hitting another new high. Commvault, CVLT, data storage, backup, recovery, and replication software. This is one that has had some nice volume to the up and very little to the down. It's a little extended. I'd want to see a pullback into the low to, mid 40s, but Commvault System is one that we really like that thinks it could be a leader going forward. And Movado, the watch company, broke out, gapped up, had good revenues, good earnings, would not chase it. I don't mind you getting long Movado if you're looking for another apparel play. I wouldn't buy it. You'd want to have it pull back towards the 17 level. I think you can get long. Fossil is a name that we have liked for some time. Now we're starting to look at it more from the short side on lifts. It's just, like all these big winners, they've had their runs, and I think it might be time for a new, fresh batch of leadership stocks. So that's really it for the playbook for tonight. The market's at a critical area, continues to be there. All eyes, a lot of data next week. But I think Thursday, Friday, that's where you're really going to question whether or not you want to be long without hedges in place. There's nothing wrong with staying long some stocks, but have some hedges in place, either downside options, SPXU, some E-minis, or some shorts. Have an equal amount of shorts to longs. Hopefully when the market goes up, your longs go up more than your shorts go down, and when we roll over, your shorts drop more than your longs drop, and you can make money both ways. And in a perfect world, you can have both happen. You make money on your longs and your shorts. But that's being very optimistic in a crazy market like this. That's it for the playbook. Have a good night. Have a good weekend, and I will talk with you on Monday.